Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard to ThunderQuote's Non-Profit Digital Voyage, a show where we talk about tech, social, and public good, and how you can get involved. I'm your host, Sabrina, and I hope everyone can sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. If you're ready, let's set sail. Now, on to our episode. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of ThunderQuote's Non-Profit Digital Voyage. Today's special guest is none other than the Human Resource Manager of ThunderQuote itself, Miss Diana Farida. Hi Diana, welcome to the show.
Hi Sabrina, hi listeners. Hi, my name is Diana. As you guys heard earlier, I'm the HR Manager of ThunderQuote. I'm happy and honored to be a part of this call, and also thank you to the marketing team for having me on this podcast. Yeah.
All right, so before we get into the main topic of today's episode, I just want you to introduce yourself to our audience, particularly about your background and your work experience with ThunderQuote, and maybe if you have volunteering experience as well with nonprofits.
All right, sure. So my background is business management, so I graduated in that, and HR was never part of the plan, like the early plan. So I know I wanted to have a business through all my work experiences at the end of the day. So my thought process was to try out and experiment various roles and see what I really end up liking, and at the same time, an exposure to understand how businesses work lah. So when I started out in ThunderQuote, I was hired as a customer service exec for a part-time role.
Mm-hmm.
And through my time here at ThunderQuote, not only did I actually get to work on CS stuff, I actually got to experiment other stuff like business development, some operational work, and also I got to also dabble into a little bit of tech. So I did data scraping and tagging, which I ended up not really liking it in the day, as tech wasn't really my thing. So that's when I went to that. And then eventually the opportunity for HR arose when our company had to evolve. Because back in the day, the Malaysia team only had 5 full-time employees. Mm-hmm. So we were transitioning into the non-profit, consulting for the non-profit market. Of course, the team had to grow. So hence why we started the HR department, and I was given an opportunity to help in the process of basically starting a department from scratch. And through that experience, I guess I can say I have found my home in the sense where I really enjoy my role and what I get to do here for the company especially. That's part of my background. So in terms of volunteering, back in the days, during high school, I was very actively involved in Interact Club. I used to find myself actually enjoying going to visit the orphanage, helping out in the old folks home and soup kitchen. But I never really thought of it in a way of, I actually really like helping people. It wasn't something I looked back on even until actually the pandemic hit again. That's when I realized I actually really like helping people, because in the sense where in HR, when the company was actually doing work, in terms of consulting, they were really helping the non-profits in terms of digitalisation work, right? But then for me, I was just doing HR. So in a way, I actually felt really demotivated to work at one point, because I also wanted to, help the non-profit. The feeling was just quite annoying and demotivating day to day. However, actually over time, as I started hiring more people for the company and seeing the changes that they are making for the company, I actually saw that as a way of, hey, actually I'm also helping the non-profits in a way, because I'm hiring these people who can help service the clients and service the non-profits. So that actually, that feeling actually made me want to help the non-profits more. So during the pandemic, I actually did take extra approach and initiative to try to help in terms of donations, or if I could volunteer for any weekend events. So that's how I helped during, so that's pretty much what my volunteering experience. But in the future, I definitely hope that I can help more when I have more time. And also, as our work culture is getting more flexible, so I try to make more time to help the nonprofits as well, like even through freelancing work if there's extra time. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to pick your brain as like a HR manager,
Mhm.
especially in talking about HR challenges that the nonprofit organizations face. So we know they have like a lot of challenges. I mean, nonprofit sector is not exempt from HR challenges, right? So can you tell me more about what issues you've seen in the nonprofit and social service sector? I guess starting with like the employee turnover rates and workloads, because we always hear about high employee turnover.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so that one I think doesn't only apply to nonprofits. It also applies to like, normal businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I mean, it can be expected to be a high turnover rate in the nonprofits, especially when we look into factors that limit them to actually function properly in the operational side of things on their end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the ways they can definitely tackle the issue is by looking into digitalisation. So, like for example, you can look into all of your day-to-day processes and see if there's any task. So, high employee turnover, I think this affects not only non-profits but on a normal business as well. Um, so one of the few ways you can actually tackle this issue is through digitalization. So for example, you can look into your day-to-day processes and see if like any task can be automated in any way. When a task is automated, it actually helps to save time for the employees. For example, like when you adopt a CRM software, it actually tackles a lot of tasks that involves repetitive work and also manual work. So for like example, rather than keying in all the client's details or a beneficiary's details into Excel, which can also be prone to human errors, you can adopt a CRM software which automatically helps to collect data from even the emails that you send out. Or it can even help track all the emails that you sent out, and that way it also tackles communication and transparency in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, and it also helps to reduce like operational costs. So in a sense where you don't really have to, waste your budget by hiring more admin people when you can
Mm-hmm.
reduce that. And then also I think it's important to ensure that if you're hiring the right person and allocating the right resources for the job. So like if you hired someone who doesn't have the right skills for the job, no doubt, no matter like what kind of job you give them, they're eventually going to feel disengaged and demotivated to do the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking about allocating the right resources, if the resources are not sufficient, it's going to give the same impact as well, where they're going to feel frustrated, burned out, and delayed in the delivery in terms of their work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's important to also look at employees as the success driver for your organization. So just like how you would service your beneficiaries well because you want to give them a good experience, you want them to come back to you for help. It's also important to treat your employees the same way. They are, in other words, they also help your business run smoothly, just like how clients or beneficiaries helps to operate a business smoothly. Um, yeah, and also it's important to keep employees engaged. Like it's definitely important to invest in your employees, as I mentioned earlier. So you can also do this through training and development. Like I think this should be done more frequently in like more companies or something, non-profits can adopt in their
Mm-hmm.
policy as well. Like when you're invested in your training and development, it also helps you to track your employees' progress, and also you get a gauge of their strengths and weaknesses, and also like what kind of tasks will they perform well in and what kind of tasks will they not perform well in. And when the employees actually feels like their employers are actually taking care of them and assisting them in achieving their goals and objective, they're gonna want to stay longer in the company
Mm-hmm.
as well. Yeah. And I think the last important thing to take note of is like it's not only important to share constructive feedback, but it's also important to be able to take feedback from the employees. So, this can be done through surveys or one-on-one sessions during your feedback sessions. But it's also important to give your employees a space for them to voice out their experience and expectations. Like if something is not aligned with their goal, can we as a company do better to help them achieve it? Can we provide more training materials? Yeah. Yeah, I think this will really help to reduce the turnover when it comes to like heavy workload and things like that. Yep.
Okay. Going off of that, like when you compare the work cultures of nonprofit and for-profit organizations, they work differently. So, what would you do as a HR manager when you have a new employee who just transitioned from a for-profit organization to a nonprofit organization to prevent any like culture shock?
Okay. So firstly, I think like what will help make my job as a HR manager easier is if the employee actually did their research beforehand, in the sense where like when you want to work or accept working at a non-profit, right? I think you definitely need to be aware of the change of the environment and the new challenges that you're gonna face. And generally, I think when you make that transition into working in a non-profit industry, one of the biggest motivation would have been because you're looking for a more meaningful and a more purpose-driven job. Hence why you made the switch. So in order to facilitate that transition, I think it's great if like people actually go out and speak to various people from this industry to really understand how the industry works, get best practices and tips that will help ease into the journey. So what I could do as a HR manager to help facilitate that process is actually, so when people come into the company, actually assign people to like a buddy system. So someone who can actually share all these experiences, someone who can give the tips, best practices, and also like someone who can help into preparing that person for the mindset, and at the same time also share the challenges that they're actually going to face in this role, because at the end of the day their motivations are going to be challenged, especially when it's a big culture change. So I think buddy system will definitely work. Getting them to be more involved in like the calls that we make out to clients, basically get a feel before really starting on the job. So this is where like training and development also comes in, and also the onboarding process is really important. So yeah, definitely to start on those two parts.
When we're talking about like digitalization and how that like improves the work processes, right, and how it eases the workload off of the staff, what do you think happens when there's a change in the company organization, especially due to digitalization, and how does HR play a role in helping that?
Okay. So I think in HR terms, or I think in business terms, we call this change management. Generally, HR plays a very important role in this, and I think the first thing like employees or employers need to accept that companies will face changes every day, in terms of like when it comes to new expectations from employees. Even clients' behaviors can change. One day they like you, tomorrow they want to complain about you to the whole world, or like in terms of new technologies. So like how the company usually reacts to these changes actually is within our control, and hence why HR is important lah. And also usually when these changes happen, it's also important to address and accept the fact that there are some employees who are going to be in shock, some employees who are going to be in denial, and there are going to be some who's going to say, I totally don't accept this at all. So generally in change management, I think there is like 4 principles, I think, where it's planning in advance, where you can plan in advance to understand the change, plan for change, implement the change, and also communicate these changes. So for like, it's important to understand firstly like why is there a need for the change to happen, and what kind of impact it's going to make on the company. And rather than worrying about what the future is going to bring, or like what's going to happen to the company if this happens, it's better to definitely prepare in advance by creating a plan for different future scenarios. And usually this is done together with the management of the company and also with the HR, because at the end of the day, HR is also involved in also planning like future roles that's going to be needed, or how many employers will be needed, and things like that. And as you are also implementing these changes, you should look into what kind of training will be required. So like what will also help people ease into the transition, what kind of employees will require the support, and of course, who will be responsible to implement these changes and what kind of support they would need. And lastly is definitely communicating. So it's important to communicate so that the team members can get on board with the company's future plans. And I think besides this, how else HR helps is also we are one of those people who are involved in facilitating this communication with the employees. At the same time, we also get to gather their feedbacks and also address any concerns if the employee has. And then at the same time, we assist in building training programs. And we also get to track the impact of the performance. And it's also important to ensure, like at the end of the day, despite all these changes, the culture is still in place and it's aligned with our company values. Yeah.
Okay, so for our listeners, I think some of them may not know, but ThunderQuote is a company that helps with digital transformation for nonprofits. We consult nonprofits in their process of digital transformation. But my question for you is, how is your experience with dealing with digital transformation itself? Because you mentioned, ThunderQuote changed their target, their direction to help with nonprofits, right? How is that experience, and how do you deal with organizational changes relating to this digitalization and these changes?
So personally for me, coming from a person from like a non-tech background, when all of this was happening during the pandemic, I was very confused. I'm like, digital transformation. I think at one point I was equally as confused as like if you're doing digital marketing. So I didn't really understand what digital transformation was. But after understanding what it does and the impact that it brings, I was totally on board. And as I said, I found every motivation I can to help me keep going so that I can grow together with the company. And personally, my experience with it. Sorry, what was the question about my experience again?
What's your experience like dealing with the organizational changes? Because, you went from, you said the Malaysia team only had like 5 people, 5 permanent, 5 full-timers. And then now we have more full-timers. How is that like for you?
Yeah. Okay, so I think one story that I can share about was like, so as the team was growing and as we are hiring people, so for one, it's gonna take time to hire the right people for the job. You need to make sure you're making the right hire so you're not wasting time, because training, we only have like 5 people, right? Like just take, we only have 5 people. So imagine training like one person for like 3 months and then they leave and then they're not the right hire and then you have to find someone again for the role. So we were very particular with who we hired into the company. So for me as a HR manager, at the same time, while there was a need for more people to fill in the roles to get the job done, at the same time, we also have employees who are actually experiencing burnouts because they have to tank the other roles for the meantime. So part of my job was, not only finding people, but I was also motivating like current employees to basically be there for them, address any issues, any concerns they have, ensuring that they are not reaching their capacity and not reaching out burnout. Even for me, of course, I felt the pressure as well. So the key was to have a positive mind, and in order to have that is you also need to create a positive culture. So I think we did a lot of like basically we put our employees first, despite there was a high need of also hiring people. So I think it's important to have those principles there. and to keep in mind that you need to address your employees first. They are your main people at the end of the day. Yep.
Okay, so I know you talked about the different benefits of having a digital transformation, right? Especially for nonprofits, considering that their workload is really heavy. Um, can you explain more about what these organizations can gain through all of the changes of digitalization?
I think the most important impact that it will make is the fact that it gets to empower your employees in the sense where when you adopt digitalization, your time is going to be freed up because I mean your process is automated in a way you have more time to do other more valuable work. Um, and then also besides that, like when any of your process is automated, you can also expect a reliable outcome which benefits like the company because it also helps to achieve greater transparency and fairness. And then also like your work you know is less prone to human errors. For example, like when I'm doing recruitment, right, uh, prior to this, I used to key in all the candidates details through Excel, their email, their contact number, and then like I have to copy paste like important notes into Excel. But like when I adopted when I started using a software for the recruitment process, it literally tracked like all the candidates details. So like I didn't have to constantly retype all the notes to share with everyone. I can just share the link to the site and then ask everyone to go look at it and then ask me any questions you have. So meeting times are basically more effective because you're only asking the right questions. So I didn't have to waste time refreshing and sharing with everyone about the candidate. Yeah, so that it really helps to save time, which I guess it also means agile working in a way. And at the end of the day, I think ultimately it also helps with making better decisions because digitalization and information goes hand in hand. If you think about it, like as information is analyzed, it also transforms into knowledge, and knowledge also leads to better decisions. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I'm interested to know what's your favorite thing about being in HR so far, considering that, your background has always been in business, and then, you end up being in HR and you as you said, you found a home here in this position. So, yeah, share with me something that you like about being in HR.
When the employees are happy, it honestly makes me super happy as well. Like I can go to sleep with a peace of mind when the employees are happy. Um, Kevin's wife likes to call me the mother hen of the company, and I actually can relate to that. So even in the sense of like, when I see an employee feeling very proud of what they've done, or when they've completed a project, or like when interns share me of like, when they created a proposal for like a collaboration project and looking at the work done, I feel so proud. Like, oh my God, look what my kid has done. You know, they're also happy, and that really keeps me going. And I guess it results to the fact that I get to help people at the end of the day. And the fact that ThunderQuote has given me a place to do that, yeah, makes me really happy to be here and want to help more for the
I
company.
see.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your hopes for the future, both for ThunderQuote and also for the nonprofit sector?
All right. So for the company, of course, I definitely hope like the company grows. Like in terms of our presence, like I hope more people are aware of who we are, so that we can, as more people know, we are able to make more impact. And also at the same time, I think like what we do actually really helps to inspire more young generation to want to help more in the non-profit industry. Because before this, we've always been introduced to, okay, we can go help out, but volunteer in the sense where we go clean their house, donate food or teach them. Whereas we don't really, it's not really known to do more service delivery work in terms of volunteering. Like, for example, I think it's not really a common practice here, especially. For example, it's like, students can be more actively involved in the sense where they can help nonprofits with their digital marketing, for instance, or even help build websites and things like that. So I hope we continue to inspire more young people to want to do that, because like especially during interviews, it's very fulfilling when I hear people share about how we make them feel. And so even if people don't come to work with us, I hope we continue to inspire people to do it outside of ThunderQuote even. And for non-profits, I hope more help comes their way. I hope more companies will, like for private companies like us, like for ThunderQuote, I hope there's more companies out there who want to help more non-profits in helping them to digitalize their day-to-day work, or even basically help them to be more in line with what the industry is today, at least. Yep.
Okay, so before we end the episode, any final remarks from you?
ThunderQuote is always hiring. Like, we are always looking for people. Yes, self-promo. I mean, HR promo time. But anyways, yeah, ThunderQuote is always hiring. Like, we do not have a limited amount of time of like when we are looking for people. Like, we literally hire all around the year. And even if you don't see like a specific JD related to a specific job, like as in example, if you're looking for a data analyst job and it's not on our website, feel free to always just send us an email, drop us your resume, and introduce yourself, because end of the day, one culture that we practice is that we like to meet interesting people and we would like to help them grow as well. I mean, of course it'll benefit the company, but at the same time, we like finding potentials. We like maximizing potentials. So yeah, do not feel free to apply for ThunderQuote. Yep.
Okay, nice. And with that, we've arrived at the end of the episode. Thank you so much to Diana for sharing this conversation with me today. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye, set sail.
And that was today's episode. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and leave a review. It would mean a whole lot to us. You can also head over to our website at thunderquote.org to gain access to our free digital resources. See you next time!